Alright, so I didn't have any movie reviews in December, so instead I'm just going to have one video talking about all the movies that I saw in December. And there were 4 of them. And I actually saw all of them within a week, like one day after another. Because movie studios want to release all their movies around Christmas for some reason. The first movie I saw was actually Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And I was actually pretty excited about it. It was pretty fun watching the movie. But after hearing some opinions on it, both on the good side and the bad side, I'm sort of in the middle with it because there are a lot of things I do like about the movie, and but there's also a few things that I really don't like that much about it. Specifically, the main characters are kind of boring. The only character I really connected with was K2SO, and he was like a fantastic droid. But all of the other characters I didn't really give a crap about. I just thought they were sort of boring. The battles at the end of the movie, though, were pretty fun and exciting. I saw a few articles saying that this is the first movie within the Star Wars universe to acknowledge that the franchise is about war. Even though Wars is part of Star Wars, I still get what they're trying to say and that they're looking at more of the grunt level of Star Wars. And for that, I think the movie is worth seeing. I just wish they didn't sacrifice characters and story for little sprinkles of fan service. Like I've said in videos of years past, I'm really not that into Star Wars, so you may like the film a lot more than I did, or a lot less, depending on what kind of Star Wars fan you are. The second film I saw in December was Passengers. I had been interested in this film because it stars Chris Pratt, one of my favorite big-time actors right now, and it was a sci-fi concept that sounded pretty interesting. You have this big ship going to this colony planet full of people that are asleep, and one of the sleeping pods malfunctions and then a person wakes up. And in this case, multiple people. Chris Pratt's character is the one that wakes up first, and then he finds out that he woke up like 90 years early. And unfortunately, the ship thinks that the sleeping pods are fail-safe, so he can't go back to sleep. Also, I do gotta say, I like the way the ship looks and the way the ship functions. It sort of functions like a corporation. And there's little things about it that remind me of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and also the ship from WALL-E. There's a point where Chris Pratt's character is trying to order a coffee, and all he can order is just a regular coffee. He can't order anything else because he's not a gold member. I thought the humor like that in the film was pretty great. Unfortunately, a lot of critics didn't really like this movie. Audiences liked it better, but I can understand why critics didn't like it because there is a point in the movie that makes you feel uncomfortable for half of the film. And it's a major plot point, so I don't want to give it away, but I gotta say it does make you feel uncomfortable once you realize what's going on. It definitely gives off a creepy vibe. In fact, there's actually a reference to The Shining in the background of this movie. See if you can see what it is. But yeah, it's not as bad as critics make it out to be, but I can definitely understand why they feel that way. The third movie I saw was Assassin's Creed, and that was a pile of shit. Let's move on. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about it. This was the 4th video game movie I saw in 2016, and it's kinda weird to say that. And unfortunately, none of them really hit the mark that hard. But without a doubt, I gotta say Assassin's Creed is by far the worst one. I only know a little bit about Assassin's Creed because of my friends that would play it. And when the first game came out, it actually had a pretty interesting concept with the Animus and everything. Which I remember I actually said back in 2007 when the game came out, that should actually be the twist ending of the game, that it's not actually taking place in the past, it's actually taking place in the future. I thought that would have been a really cool twist ending, but they didn't do that. They just went into it immediately. But unfortunately, they oversaturated Assassin's Creed, and it was having a yearly release, and some of them weren't so good from what I've heard. But it's a popular franchise, so of course it might get a movie, and it got one. Unfortunately, it's a pile of shit. It's really, really bad. The acting is really awkward, and from Michael Fassbender, who I've heard has been a pretty good actor. I haven't seen him in many things. I haven't seen much of the movies that he's been in. But in this, they make him sound like an edgy middle school student. And there are so many scenes in this where the edginess is, like, cringeworthy. Like when he first enters the Animus and those blades come out of the little sleeve things. Like, that is edge factor 1000. I mean, having a hoodie on like this, like, and doing this throughout the movie, it looks really, really edgy and stupid and awkward. And I don't know. It was just really dumb. I hated it. And this jacket is actually getting pretty hot, so I'm going to take it off for the last review. So the 4th and final movie I saw in December was Sing. Illumination has always been kind of for me. Even though I really hate the concept of the Minions movie wasn't all that bad. It was alright, but it wasn't like anything I would write home about. It still made it on my top 7 worst movies of 2015. But after surprisingly liking The Secret Life of Pets, I thought I would surprisingly like this movie, and I kinda did. I didn't like it that much, but it was alright. The songs were okay, but I feel like Trolls did a better job at a jukebox musical than Sing did. And I enjoyed the characters enough, and surprisingly, Matthew McConaughey as the koala, I was surprised that he was able to make a voice like that, because I've always heard them as, like, you know, having that southern drawl, but for whatever reason, when he's doing a voice acting role, he sounds a lot different than his usual self, and a lot in this as the koala. It was kind of jarring because I just rewatched Interstellar the other night, and he sounds completely different. So I guess good job, Matthew McConaughey. I think my favorite character, however, is Ash the Porcupine, played by Scarlett Johansson. And there's a point in the movie where she's cry singing, and I laughed a lot at that. Like, I'm sorry, but it was funny. And the problem is, I think it was supposed to be emotional, but I laughed. And the gorilla character of Johnny, I actually like his performance the best at the end when they do the whole big singing competition. And they actually choose a Elton John song that I'm surprised they chose, because I hadn't heard that song in, like, years. Some of the song choices are pretty obvious for the time that it is, but then there's some other songs that are like, wow, I didn't know you would go that deep. It boasts that there's like 60 or 80 songs in the movie, but they definitely cheat with that. Because there's some that are just on for like a few seconds and that's it. Overall, I think it was a very decent animated movie. It was very by the numbers, though. It's literally a Save the Rec Center plot. But as one of the guys on Double Toasted said, it's pretty much a poor man's Cats Don't Dance. So those are all the movies I saw in December, and some little mini reviews of them, since I didn't actually do full reviews. In the next video, I'll talk about movies that I saw throughout the year, but I didn't do reviews on. And there's actually quite a lot of them, because I watched a few at the end of December. So if you've seen any of the movies that I talked about, tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, by now we're getting a bit used to winter. We're like soldiers in the middle of a campaign, growing hardened to discomfort and better able to